Something that really bothers me about last night's episode 5, Sister Wives, is Robyn lied a lot. But she also did this big tirade at the end that didn't make any sense because she was talking about how that's not a real Christmas. It doesn't matter how many houses you rent, how many food you have, how many gifts you buy. It wasn't a real Christmas, and the kids know that. And it doesn't make any sense because Janelle and Christine's family, as far as I saw, didn't have fancy meals. We didn't see them buy fancy gifts. They rented a house. They didn't buy it. And what does she mean? The kids know that. Literally, the only way that makes sense is if it was someone else talking about Robyn, because Robyn does have the big house, and they did do the crepes, which is a tradition that she basically stole from the family, and they didn't even do them right. It was always the oldest girls who did it, but maybe her girls doesn't want to be involved. And the big gifts, you mean like the motorbikes? Like, it doesn't even make sense because does she think that she knows how their Christmas went? I mean, maybe they had stuff that happened off screen, but we certainly didn't see it. And so like this whole thing where she's screaming or sobbing about, oh, it just wasn't a real Christmas. And it's like, it doesn't even in her diluted stuff, like where she says, like at least when she says something like, oh, Cody always favored Christine and not me. You go, well, that's not true. We see no evidence of it. But that is something that could exist because she was a wife and Cody does seem to have problems ever managing his time and resources to be fair amongst the wives. But her screaming about how their big fancy house and their big fancy meals and all of their gifts don't make Christmas. And there's no evidence that any of that happened with Janelle or Christine. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And it's like, I don't even know. Like, if I was doing the tell-all, this would be one of the questions, which would be, I don't know what you mean. They did rent a house on Airbnb, but I mean, they didn't buy it. They didn't get together in a big fancy house because Robyn's house wasn't good enough. It's because they weren't invited. They were not welcome at that event because, well, first it was COVID, then it was a text chain. It seems like there was always some reason that they couldn't come. They weren't allowed to come. It wasn't safe, all of that. But like, even her excuses just don't make sense to me. Like, even if a parallel universe where I was like, oh yeah, I fully believe Robyn, I'd be like, what big gifts and fancy food and big house did they lure them away? Like, that doesn't even make sense if I did believe her.